Okay, and welcome. So we're moving on, and we're still looking at applications 1.1, but now we're here right at the end of this particular topic. We're looking at bearings. So bear with me and we'll dive in. So bearings are angles that are measured clockwise from north. So you all know what an angle is. You know what north is, it's the direction, and you know what clockwise is. So it's just a different way of thinking about angles. Bearings are always given as three-digit numbers. So for example, 46 degrees, if you were going to describe that as a bearing, you would write 046 degrees. Okay, and that's how you know that an angle is a bearing as well. If you can see this three-digit thing here. So let's just have a look at bearings in action. Here's north. So north is just obviously the compass point going north, and A would be like a location. We also have B over there. And if you want to see the bearing from B to A, it's marked there for you. So the bearing B from A is this angle that takes you from A, looking at north, going clockwise, it takes you to B. And it's important that this is a clockwise direction. Okay. If you want to see the bearing from A to B, okay, it's highlighted in red there. So the bearing of A from B means start at B, look north, and then just follow around clockwise until you get back to A. And again, notice that it's the big angle rather than the small angle that we're using for this. And the reason for that is because we must be going clockwise. Okay. Let's see another example. So here we're going to look at the angle B from C. So here's the angle B from C. That means we're going to start at C and then starting north and going clockwise. How do we get to B? And again, you can see it highlighted in red here. Okay, so again, it's this idea of the clockwise direction that's important for the bearing. One quick thing I'm going to point out now is because all these notes are obviously the same direction, they're all north, these lines, these big lines with the arrows, these lines are all parallel lines. Now that's going to become important later on, but I'm just going to flag that up now. If all these lines are pointing in the same direction, they're all vertical lines, these lines are all parallel. Okay, so quick diagnostic question. Just answer this yourself as you watch this video. This bearing here, is it the bearing B from A? Is it the bearing A from B? Or is it neither of those two things? Okay, so this is the angle, sorry, this is the bearing, I should say, B from A. Okay, we start at A, we go clockwise in order to get that angle that takes us to B. So this is the angle B from A. This bearing here, is it the bearing B from A? The angle, sorry, the bearing A from B, or is it neither of those things? Okay, so we know it's not the angle B from A, because that would be an angle that a bearing that was around here, around A. We know it's not the bearing A from B because the angle, the bearing A from B would be going clockwise. It would be going something like this. This is not going clockwise from north. This is going anti-clockwise from north. Yeah, if you start at north and you were following this angle, you'd be going the opposite way of the clock. So this would be this bearing is neither. So this bearing here, again, is it B from A from B, or neither of those two things? I'm hoping you're saying that this bearing is neither. Look at it; it's going in a in an anti-clockwise direction. So this is not the correct bearing. And this bearing, is it B from A or A from B? Well, it's definitely from B because we're here at the B side, and it's this clockwise direction taking us to A. So this would be the correct bearing there. So I hope that's kind of filled you in on how bearings work. They are a little bit fiddly, I find. It's because we're so used to angles. You've probably used angles over and over again. So when we throw bearings at you, you can lose your bearings a little bit. And it just throws you a little bit. So if you ever get a little bit stuck, just take it back and it just comes back to this clockwise from north. I'm looking north, I'm going clockwise. Stick with that and you won't really go wrong with bearings. I'm going to talk to you now about co-interior angles. Now, we're not going to panic about co-interior. Interior, if you're an interior designer, you design the inside of a house. And interior just means inside. Okay? So we're going to think about inside between A and B. This space here is like the space inside A and B. Okay? So anything in here is the interior of A and B. And core, you can think of a company or cohabitating, or words to do with core are about together. So we're talking about the angles that are together inside A and B, if we're talking about the co-interior angles. So I'm just going to highlight what the co-interior angles are. There's co-interior angles here, A and B. And we've also got, I might just change this color to something different. Make it blue. There's another pair of co-interior angles. There's angles here and here are also co-interior. These are co-interior in this space. So there's different inside space here between B and C. You need to be able to spot co-interior angles, and I'm just going to point these out to you here. Here's an important fact about parallel lines. When you have parallel lines, the co-interior angles sum to 180 degrees. What that means is this angle here and this angle here add up to be 180 degrees. That's true whenever you have parallel lines. Now, in this topic of bearings, we always have this north listed. And so because of that, if we've got two norths drawn like we have in this diagram, there's always going to be a set of parallel lines, these big lines here with the arrows. So because these two lines are both pointing north, they're both parallel, so these co-interior angles add up to make 180 degrees. So for example, if B was 100 degrees, and I said, what is A equal to? You should say, well, A must be equal to 80 degrees because these two angles must add up to be 180. So that's really important to know. So quick diagnostic question, just check that we've got that. The two angles that are marked there, are they co-interior or are they not co-interior? Okay, I'm hoping that you're shouting at me that they are co-interior. They're on the inside of A and B, and they are both together there on the inside. Do these two angles sum to 180 or do they not sum to 180? Okay, well, they're co-interior angles, as we've just said. So they do sum to 180 degrees because these lines are parallel. Okay, so because this line and this line are parallel, they do sum to 180. Do these two angles sum to 180 degrees? No. These two angles that have been marked are not co-interior. If we think about the interior between B and C, this is there in this interior, but this B is not with it. It's not also in the same interior. This B is in a sort of different area, isn't it? It's in this red area over here. So they're not together. Okay. A couple of things that you need to know, and this is sort of from before the National 5 course, but you will need to know this. Angles around a point sum to 360 degrees. So that's basically that the angles in a circle or the angles all the way around make 360, and that angles on a straight line sum to 180 degrees. Okay, I'll do two quick examples just to show you that. So here's an example. All these angles here sum to 180 degrees. So angles around a point sum to 180 degrees. So in other words, A plus 60 plus 95 plus 105 equal 180 degrees. And really at this point, it's just a case of solving that equation. First thing to do, I would probably do is just add these three numbers up here, the 60, the 95 and the 105, which would be 260. Oh, apologies. I've made a really silly error there. I've written the sum to 180 degrees. That's not right, is it? The sum to 360 degrees. Okay, so they sum to 360 degrees. Okay, and now the next thing to do would be to take 260 away from 360, which is going to leave you with A being 100 degrees. Just check it makes sense. If this is 105, does A look like, about the same? It's certainly an obtuse angle. It's definitely bigger than 90 degrees. So yes, we're quite happy with our answer there. Okay, this one here, we've got straight lines. So you can think of it like this. We've got a nice big straight line. So angles on a straight line sum to 180 degrees. So in other words, 30 degrees plus B degrees equals 180 degrees. So it's not going to take much to see that B must be equal to 150. You've also been asked to work out C, so we could also think of this as well as being a straight line, because it is. So we've got this blue straight line here. So basically B plus C is equal to 180 degrees. So 150 plus C is 180 degrees. You can see here that C is equal to 30. Now, if you look at this diagram for a little bit, you're going to come to the conclusion that no matter what you start with here, 30, C was always going to have to end up being the same. And I'm going to tell you right now that this angle here, we've not asked for this angle, but the angle that's opposite B would also be 150. And if you want, you can pause this video and try and work that out using what you know about C. But you should see that these angles are going to end up being the same. And we call these angles here vertically opposite. So if you've got a straight line and you've got another straight line, the angles that are opposite are equal. So if that is equal to A, then that angle there is equal to A, and we call that vertically opposite. So what I want you to do is have a go at the task. So there's a couple of worksheets that I've included. Once you've done that, I'd pause this video and have a go at those, and then maybe just come back to this video for the challenge questions at the end. Or if you want, keep watching. You can maybe have a go at the questions that I've got for you, and you can go back and have a go at the worksheets afterwards if you prefer. Okay, so the final bit is these challenge questions here. These are all about co-interior angles. Again, know your facts to tell me what X is. The hardest one would be question 2 here, where you're going to have to use a couple of facts. The first question you're going to ask on this question is, where are the cointerior angles? I'll give you a clue. You're going to have to mark a cointerior angle somewhere and then work it out. Okay, so that's enough from me for today. I will see you next time for the next lesson.